Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, a Chamber of Commerce exec blasting government's recently passed rate reduction bond bill. Meanwhile, the opposition's deputy leader accusing the PM of using the marijuana issue as a distraction, and children in North Abaco grateful for the simple things in life.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. As BPL's New Providence customers endured an island-wide blackout on Friday night, Chamber of Commerce Energy Committee Chair Deborah Deal is blasting government's rate reduction bond bill that was passed in the House of Assembly this past week. The bond is expected to help BPL refinance its $321 million legacy debt and raise another $350 million for new spending. Deal said after reading the bill for herself, she has a lot of questions.
I see no mention of the backup generation that we have, the 150 megawatts of backup generation that we have. That costs us what, a couple $1 million a month? That's a lot of money.
Public Works Minister Desmond Bannister on Thursday refused to reveal what BPL's rate increase will be for consumers, noting he could not say much because the government is currently in a quiet period. Deal is questioning where are the provisions for renewable energy.
Fix this mess, but we'll make things better in the future. I don't see anything in there for alternative energy. There was no money being borrowed for that. I see that they're going to be paying off the engines from Wärtsilä that are going into Clifton right now. There's a retirement fund that they're paying off. I mean, it's not, they're just accumulating more debt and expecting us to pay it. And, you know, $20 for people whose average electricity bill is $60, that's a lot of money. That's 1/3 of their energy bill.
Deal said she understands BPL's financial bind, but she feels customers are being dealt a bad hand.
And there's no saying that, you know, we're going to reduce our fuel surcharge, because of course they're not. They do talk about fuel going down later, I guess, when they bring in LNG, but there's still no evidence of that actually happening. If you drive out to Clifton, you see no evidence of that happening. So it's just, I feel for BPL, but I really think they need to think about the Bahamian citizen and the residents of this country.
PLP Deputy Leader Chester Cooper is accusing Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis of only supporting marijuana law reform in order to distract from issues plaguing BPL. Cooper, who supports decriminalizing marijuana, says government ought to just do what it needs to do and focus on improving the country's power supply.
Shortly before the announcement of a $650 million borrowing of BPL, he thought it was a great idea to give the Bahamian people some great news. He thought it was a popular thing to say, and therefore he jumps into the fray and he makes an announcement of what his views are in relation to decriminalizing and expunging records. How convenient. We want this Prime Minister to now focus on the core issues of the BPL borrowing $650 million, taxing the Bahamian people to pay for it, and light bills are going up.
Last week, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced his support for decriminalizing small quantities of marijuana and legalizing medical marijuana. He also expressed support for expunging criminal records for individuals caught with small amounts of the drug. Cooper says it is time to act, not talk.
But whilst he now supports decriminalizing, expunging records, we invite him to just do it. He is the Prime Minister. There are certain laws already on the books to make it happen. He has the power to do it. Rather than talk about it and make big announcements, he simply needs to go and do it. In the meanwhile, we're focused on BPL. We want BPL to be fixed. Bahamian people are sick and tired. And then we're going to come to talk about the $500 million being borrowed to fund the deficit, how poorly they've managed the economy, how much they've taxed the Bahamian people, and how this all continues.
Just off the eastern end of Grand Bahama, the people of Sweetings Key say they are still waiting for the same type of recovery given to other communities devastated by Hurricane Dorian. While they have gotten some attention, they feel like a forgotten community. Jerome Sawyer recently visited and reports on the conditions on the small key.
The ferry ride from McLean's Town to eastern Grand Bahama to Sweetings Key is a sign of things to come. Dozens of cars litter the channel out, vehicles tossed into the sea by the storm.
Any idea how many cars out here?
From the moment you approach the shoreline, you realize just how bad it is. The majority of the homes and businesses in this tiny community are flattened, ripped from their foundations and lost to sea. What used to be of a population of around 120 is now just 20 depending on the day. Life here is all but at a standstill. Leonard Feaster uses his battery-operated radio to keep his company while trying to complete some basic repairs. He decided to stay despite the conditions here.
It was hard. The food which you had was gone, the water was gone. 5 days, couldn't find no food like that, no water, so it was kind of hard now. Yeah.
And you're back here working. You are planning to rebuild, you're planning to return, you're staying here?
Well, I was in the hurricane, I ain't moved yet, so yeah, I intend to rebuild, yeah.
Have you been getting a lot of outside help, people coming in to assist?
Yeah, we had some outside help, It was all right, at least to bring some supplies and water, food, yeah.
What would you say are some of the things you need the most in order to, just get back on your feet and get life back to where, at least partially where it was?
Right now, in order to build a house, you need materials, I had a couple of funds that they going in the house. I wasn't expecting for it to happen, but it happened, so it led me to a point, so once I get certain things, yes, you get back.
There is evidence of work to restore water supplies. We understood that some supplies are expected soon. No such luck for electricity, though. Just about every pole on the island is down, and with such a small population, residents say they doubt that Grand Bahama Power will restore their supplies anytime soon, if at all. Residents like Tyrone Duncombe stayed behind in the storm. The family home was one of a few still standing on the island.
We as fishermen, we lost all our boats. We need boats to get back so we could get back on the water fishing. That'll help us to build our places back along with other help. Gladstone
Russell is the island's chief counselor. He's concerned about the future of the key.
I don't think the school got to be rebuilt. Not the condition it in and the way things is now. And the school, the kids, I don't think the kids will come back into school again. It'll be years upon years before that happens.
So what's going to happen to the future of the key? If children don't come back, they are the future. They are the ones who will carry on life on the key. What's going to happen if kids don't come back?
That's why I say we got to form a corporate and see what we could wake out.
Much like their name suggests, the group Convoy of Hope has brought a spark of optimism to this hurricane-ravaged community.
We were hearing reports of a place that was needing a lot of help and maybe not having gotten as much as they needed right off the bat. So, through some investigation, we found out about Sweetings Key, and so we've come here to set up and provide help.
This once vibrant key where the majority of the men made a living from fishing is now a community in limbo, waiting to see if and when their recovery will come. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
Still to come on Our News, Abaco men return home to help rebuild, and the children, they return home too, and they're all smiles. That's coming up when Our News returns.